YouTube because I know everyone out there likes to have a title animation. I can't blame you. I love it having myself, and it's actually one of my favorite things to do in Blender. Well, the quality of title animations, as I've noticed, it ranges very widely from very good to not so good. Right now, what's on my screen, what I'm about to show you, is an example of what I would say is a pretty bad title animation, and you're in luck because today I'm going to show you how to make that bad title animation a little bit better. So let me go ahead and play this. I'm going to press Alt A. And yeah, this is kind of what I generally see from a typical low quality title animation. It probably wouldn't even be in 1080p, which I have it in right now. But yeah, it's kind of just, it's got a bad camera motion, and the animation just isn't clean. The colors don't really work well. The background's just not good. Everything's kind of off center. I mean, we can see here even on this last frame that like this animation is kind of tilted, and even if we're gonna have that animation, this end tilt should not be there. It should be completely flat and completely straight. But have no fear, because if your animations or title animations are even somewhat like this, it's okay. You can make a better one off this tutorial. And I'm going to show you what I made from this, and we're going to make something slightly different from what I made, but the concept is still the same. So we're going to have this here, and hold on, it might run a little slow. Yeah, it's got to cache 1 second. Let's let it run through once, and then we'll see. But yeah, you can see this is basically what I have. And I wouldn't say I like the font the most, but it's a nice font. And yeah, see, you can see it's quite a bit better. It's clean. There's no bad camera movement really. The animation is very clean and it has that kind of pop and natural slide to it. How things kind of have a physical reaction, and the animation kind of swoops in very nicely. It looks almost like it's being written. It just overall, I think I really like it, and it works really well. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go ahead and dive right in and look at this. All right, so you can see here. We're gonna work off our first animation thing here. So you can see here, if I scrabble this, and actually let me go ahead and camera, so you can see as I scrub this, it comes like this, and it's just like this, and this is really not that good. Well, let's go ahead and start with the first thing. First thing we need to do is change the background sky color, because let's be honest, this gray that is default in Blender is not good to render with, and we can change this very easily. So if you're going to make any change, this would be the one. I typically like to do a white, but not a full white, because the rule of color that I found, and I don't actually know if there's a name to this rule, because I've never actually heard it from anyone. Well, I've heard it from a few people, but I do not remember what the name is. But basically the rule goes, human eyes in general do not like to see 100% black or 100% white, because it is not a color that you really find in the natural world. Even in complete pitch blackness, there is still about it's 1% lighter than 100% black. So just keep that in mind, because people don't realize how big of a thing that is, but it really makes a difference when you can just make it slightly less white or slightly less black. And it actually works really well with blacks too, because it gives it more of like a faded, natural, like subtle, muted feeling to it. And you may not always want that. You may want a total black, but in general, it's better to go with something that's not complete black or complete white. So we're going to go with about 0.95 here. I found that works really well. And so now if we go ahead and look at this, and we can use the rendered feature up here, because I'm in Blender 2.68. You can see already this looks a bit better. This is black because I have not turned on ambient occlusion. So this was how it normally looked like. And yeah, it looks okay. It looks better now. But the one big thing we still have here is this camera movement. And even if we were going to have camera movement, this animation goes, animation text goes out of the frame, and that is something we do not want. But I also don't want camera movement at all, and this camera is already off skew, and I'm not going to reset rotation and stuff. So I'm actually just going to create a new one. I'm going to go to the top view. I'm going to go to perspective ortho, and so we're going to be in ortho right now. And then we're going to add a new camera. We're going to move around over here, and we're going to drag this this camera up here. So I'm just getting, a nice clean bit of reference. And then I'm going to view the camera. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go over to the camera settings, and we're actually going to change it to orthographic. Now, this is not something you specifically have to do. If I do it because for what we're doing here right now with title animations that are general 2D medium, you really do not need perspective. Orthographic is fine, and I'm going for a kind of motion graphic look, which I really enjoy. If you've seen anything on my channel, you would know. So I'm also going to change the scale of this orthographic scale to about 10. Let's go with 15. I like to keep my numbers in fives. It's a bad habit of mine, and I try not to do it too often. But for this, it's going to work really well. So the next thing we're actually going to do is this animation. I'm sorry, guys, but the Blender default font is not a good font, not at all. I mean, it serves a purpose, yes, but I can tell when you're using Blender if I see a font with, or I see text with this font. Like it's very recognizable, and it's almost as bad as Comic Sans in some ways. It definitely plagues the Blender community with that. So we're actually going to go ahead and look up this. We're going to go to dafont.com. Now, if you've never been to Dafont, I would totally recommend going recent. Although try not to go too much because you'll end up spending a long time browsing at looking at cool fonts. I know I indulge a little too much in it. Now, there are a ton of fonts, and the best part about Dafont is every font on here is free. So you can just go and simply download them and then use them directly in Blender. You don't even have to install them to your system. So what I'm doing right now is I'm gonna look for a font that I think is gonna go well with our animation. I'm not gonna go with the script like I did in the last one, at least not that bad. And yep, here I've seen all these. I'm gonna just jump around until we find something I like. I might search up something. I can go by themes. In general, motion graphic animations use sans serif or tend towards sans serif, at least more modern ones. If you're going for an older look, you generally want to go with serif. You can look up the difference between these in your own time, but basically, yeah. Let's go to this page. Let's see, 68. Anything, 63. Just looking around, trying to find one. I don't want to take too long on it, but let's see what else is there. I don't know. Let's go with. Let's go with. I think I know a font on here. Let's see, about 44. Where is it? Come on, it's here somewhere. Hold on. But yeah, I mean, you can browse and find one you want. Here we go. Let's go ahead and download this and save it to my downloads. Downloads is incredibly messy. Okay, let's unzip that. All right. So we have the files here. So now if we go back into Blender and we click on, we have our animation selected, our animation text, and I'm going to pull this out a little bit so you can see it. This is regular right here. So I'm going to open up the regular. I'm going to go to my downloads, and I'm going to sort by date, Filetto, and then I want Filetto regular right here. And so now you can already see this animation text looks a lot better than it did originally. So let's see the difference here. Here's the Blender font, and here is the other text. Now this looks definitely a lot better. What I would say also is watch your capitalization. Don't capitalize too much unless it's a stylistic choice. But don't capitalize too little. And we could do something like that. We could do, let's do something else other than animation. Let's see, we'll do Blender. Because yeah, we're kind of cliche here. At least from a lot of the test animations I do, I generally like to use this. The second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to, instead of aligning this to the left, I'm going to center it. Now this is important because I'm going to Shift S, and I'm going to selection to cursor. Now this is going to center it perfectly in our frame, which is exactly what we want. It's going to be actually a little bit above the X. So what we could do is move it down by half, or we could justify it, but we're not going to worry about that too much. And you can see here, we can also offset. So we're going to do 0, and we're going to do 0.5 negative. Oops. Nope. Negative 0.25. Sorry. There we go. All right, so now this is perfectly centered. They are using the offset Y command. All right, so now that we have this, let's get that cursor out of the way. What are we doing next? Well, we can do several things here. What I think I want to do is I want to change the font color because honestly, red and yellow, I see that a lot on Blender and I do not know why. Another rule. And this applies to photography, motion graphics, and just about any other color medium where you're presenting an image or even a movie or animation. It's not so much for animations, it's generally for photos and stills and whatnot. When someone edits a photo, oftentimes, especially in today's age, we tend to want to make it more contrasty. And I mean, that's fine, because contrasty, what it does is it catches the human eye faster because it's a lot of color stimulation. It's a lot to take in. The problem with that is you sometimes lose a lot of detail and it doesn't fit the mood necessarily. And we're going for a title animation, at least I in this situation, I think, where you want something more like relaxed, but still energetic at the same time. So we're going to go for a little bit of a subtle colors right now, and then in post we're gonna fade them out a little bit just to give a kind of nice faded, like a slightly faded look. And this is all part of the style, which I'll talk about more as we go throughout this. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and change this, and I personally love the light blues, purples, the whole the whole 9 yards. But we're gonna go here, I think, with let's go with the green here. For what I have planned, I think this is going to work really well. All right, now I'm going to press Shift-C, and you can see my camera here is really big. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to click on this thing. We're going to go over here to size, and we're going to make this 0.1. Nope, actually, we're going to keep that at 0.5, and we're going to move it to alternative layer 1. And you can see it's now down here, but it won't get in our way. And we can work freely and safely on layer 1. All right, so we have this here now. So what I'm going to do is actually the next part, which is the animation part, and this part is a bit longer and a bit harder, and but it does leave choices for artistic freedom, I would say. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to Shift A, and you notice I'm on layer 2 now, just to get this out of the way of keep everything on separate layers. Now, the very important thing that I find myself doing a lot, and especially in this, is label your stuff. I'm not labeling right now because I'm teaching a tutorial, and labeling takes a bit longer time. But the best thing you can do, especially with motion graphic animations and other things like that, label your objects and label your empties, and make sure your empties show names in the 3D viewport, because I can often find that technique is going to speed up your process if you're looking at the file later. Not to mention, when you share the file, it's going to be a lot more accessible to more people without you having to be there and explain it. Because that's what all your files, you should strive to have them as. So you can see here we have both the layers, and you notice there's this Z-planing going on. Well, the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lift this plane up by about 0.1 on the Z-axis. And then I'm going to scale it by about, let's go with 1.5. Yes, sure, that's perfect. All right, so now I'm going to actually tab into this. I'm going to go back into that, and we're going to subdivide this once. Then I'm going to go over to the Faces tool. I'm going to select this one. I'm going to press P, separate by selection, separate by selection, separate by selection, and this one is fine. All right, so now we have 4 here. And what these 4 are going to do, at least for my plan, is they're going to actually all be separate things, and they're going to pop in, and then they're going to expand out. The text is going to be there, and then they're going to close back in and then disappear, and the text is going to be gone. It's going to be kind of a cool effect, and hopefully we will have time for it in one video. If not, I will split it up into 2. All right, so what we're going to do here next is we're going to add a empty first, because what I find in motion graphics oftentimes is later I may want to deform the mesh. And the problem with deforming meshes is if you have animation on them, it can sometimes be a little bit more tricky. So what I like to do is use empties, and a lot of them. And I like to make them look like certain things and whatnot. So what we're going to do here is we're going to change this empty over here that I just added into a sphere, actually. And we're going to scale this by 0.25. When you do these, I suggest you try and have some kind of consistency with your empties. So maybe if you have one specific type of empty for scaling, so you could use spheres for that, and cubes for movement, and plane axes for translation, or rotations, or whatever. So keep a consistent layout like that too, because that's going to help. It's more intuitive to figure out later. If you leave an animation for 2 months because you can't work on it, and then you come back and you have no idea what you're doing. I've done it a lot. So we're going to view the top here again. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and name this and show you guys. This is going to be called the main scale. Main scale. And now we're going to take these, and we're going to parent all of them to this one object, Control P object. And then we're going to go ahead and so we can now scale this without actually affecting these meshes, because they can all be independently scaled. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go to frame 0. We're going to add a scaling here. And then on frame 24, which is a second because I'm going to do this animation at 24 frames a second, we're going to go over here and we're going to add another scale. Now we're going to go back to the first one. We're going to scale by 0. Then we're going to insert scaling. So now you can see here we have this pop out. But I want you to notice something. This just doesn't look very good. I mean, it looks okay and it looks better than what we had before, but we're going to improve it here. And there's one really easy way to do this. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to 24, and then we're going to go back about 3 frames. And I found that 3 generally works well for anything less than a second. If not, you're going to have to scale this accordingly. But that's really easy to do in Blender because you can scale animation keyframes. So what we have here now is I'm going to click on my sphere. Oops, let's go back into Z and get that. And I'm on frame now 21, which is 3 back from 24. And I'm actually going to scale this by 1.1. Then I'm going to press Insert Scaling. Now, let's look at what we have. It kind of pops out at the end. Pops out like that, and that is exactly what we're looking for. But it's still not quite there yet, and here's why. We're going to go into the graph editor here, and with our thing about right here, we're going to View All, and we're going to see, we notice something here. This looks nice, but this curve actually needs to be a bit sharper. So what we're going to do here is we're going to hide these other two, and we're going to look at the Z scale for, actually the Z scale does not matter because this is a 2-dimensional object. So we're going to look at the Y scale here. We're going to grab this X, grab it over here by X, and we're going to move it to right there. Then we're going to select this other one. We're going to grab this X, and we're going to move it to 0. And then we're going to grab X and move it to 14. Nope, 21. There we go. So now, let's take this, and we're going to do the same for the X scale. So go over here, grab X, 0 like that, and then grab X, 21. This one is going to be grabbing this X until it's not touching the thing, but almost. And let's make sure we have the same thing on both ones. Yep, now we do. All right, so now let's watch this. So you'll see it kind of starts slow and it gets really fast. What we can do is you can also do it the other way where this one is very low. So we could do it like this. Let's take this here. Grab X. We're going to make this point to 1, and we're going to make this, on the wrong one here, negative 21. And then grab this X here. Let's move this back. X, control 21. Okay, and so we have that there, and then Y scale here is going to be, there we go. Grab X. Is that right? All right, so now let's play this again. So this just kind of pops in the other way, and I don't really like that. So I am going to go with the other one, but I find that generally one of these two combinations is going to work the best for you. But it's up to you guys to decide what you want, because it's your animation and not mine. And I'm just giving tips and pointers here. I personally like this one a lot. All right, so now we have that kind of pop and natural slide. And one of the big rules in motion graphics is to have something that is relatable to the real life. So you want to have things that just naturally do pop out like this. And this is an effect we see in a lot of motion graphics, and it just works really well. And people are used to seeing it and they like it. And I think it looks pretty good. All right, so now we have our main scale here. But what are we going to do next? Well, next we're going to make move objects. And after I do this animation, that's going to be the last part of this tutorial. I think I'm gone a little long here. So after that, we're going to go to part 2. But let's go ahead and finish this up. All right, so we're going to add another empty. And I'm going to add a single arrow. Now I'm going to rotate this X 90 and then rotate Z 45. All right, so I have this here, and this is going to be called move BR. And this is that BR is bottom right. And then I will do the same for the other ones too. Let's go ahead and get these names going here, and view perspective, ortho. So we're in ortho mode now. All right, so now on frame 24, what we're going to do, wait 1 second. We need to also take this thing, and we're actually going to parent this plane to this move BR, so object, and then I'm going to parent this move BR to the main scale object. So now we still maintain that same thing, but now I also have a move tool that once again allows me to not animate the mesh. So on frame 24, so we're going to go 12 more. And this is all relative timing, and this is probably going to be a little fast, but we can scale these animations and move them around as we need. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and insert a location frame here. And then in 12 frames, which will be frame 48, I like working with 6s, 12s, 3s, any possible combinations from the number 24, because that's what frames we're working in. So it makes it look better to kind of work around those seconds. Although sometimes it looks better to go with a more organic and just kind of go as you need to. I prefer to do it this way. It keeps things nice and organized, but it's your choice. Once again, it's always personal preference. All right, so we're going to insert another location keyframe here, and we're going to grab this by the local, actually. So we're going to grab it by local Z, and we're going to move it out by, about 2? Yep, 2 should be good. All right, so now that we have it moved out by 2, we're going to insert, and then we're going to go location. So now you can see here we have this here. And once again, this is not a very super fluid, although it does look pretty good. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the graph editor here. We're going to key interpolation mode linear. And now if we see this, it looks not as good. So actually, let's take this back. Let's Control Z that. All right. And we're going to do the same thing we did with the other one. Let's actually get the 3D view open so we can see here easier. Sometimes it's easier to use the graph view just like that, and sometimes it's not. So let's go ahead here and grab by X. Let's get that going. So grab X. Oops, sorry. 1. Nope, grab X, -1. Sorry, there we go. All right, let's turn that brightness back up. All right, let's get this here, grab X, and then grab X about, 14? Yeah, that'll be good. And then do the same thing over here for the Y. Grab X over here, grab X, 14. Kind of monotonous. You can also get Python scripting to set this up, but I'm not going to talk about that today because that in itself is a whole nother tutorial. All right, so now we have this. So once again, we have this here, and we're going to do the same thing that we did with the other one with this one right now, except instead of scaling, we're going to do it with location. So 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to go over to the dope sheet here, and we're going to view all. We're going to make sure we have the only selected one, and then we're going to duplicate this. Oop, here we go. Duplicate that, and then move it back to this keyframe here. We're going to move this out by 0.1. We're going to insert location. And now, if we watch this, it kind of does that little bounce thing again, which is exactly what we like. So, oop, and boop. It just kind of has a nice natural pop to it. And it also looks cooler and makes for interesting sounds. Like you can put sounds in and it sounds really good. So now what we can do is we actually just have to duplicate this 4 times basically. And it's going to get annoying because we're going to have to insert new location keyframes every time. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do that off camera. And this is the end of the episode. When I come back, I'll have all 4 of these transform keys done. And then we will start on the next part of the animation. All right. I hope you all enjoyed and learned something. And I'll see you all in the second part of this tutorial. Bye.